Welcome back. My name is Simon Johnson and I'm an analyst covering tech and gaming here at ABG. Next up we have Stefan Tingval, the CEO of Fragbite. Stefan will hold a presentation of the company, after which I will host a short Q&A. So Stefan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So let's go to the next slide, please. We have a quick or a short agenda, so with different topics, so we can take next slide. So welcome and happy for you to sort of listening to 20 minutes of Fragbite presentation. We're a fast-growing, profitable, and cash flow positive group working within esports and gaming, and sort of combining this experience we have in this field and bundle our sort of offer towards digital entertainment. We're based, or sort of we're organized in three different business units: mobile gaming, publishing and indie games, and esports, but also have an additional strategic focus when it comes to M&A. I'll come back to a little bit later about that. We're 60 people, sort of growing the organization continuously, significantly within both publishing and indie games business unit, but also within our M&A efforts and focuses. If we just quickly start to the bottom right when it comes to M&A, we have a strong pipeline, a strong cash position, and some really interesting prospect that we're evaluating and in quite sort of interesting discussions. Within mobile gaming, to the upper right, we develop our own gaming engines, two gaming engines, one war strategy gaming engines, which is scalable, where we can sort of release new continuous titles. Our mobile and publishing operations, we're having 16 titles. That's mostly pay-to-play games, so you will have to pay to download the games. Driven and experienced founders within this operation, where we also sort of publish the games on 15 different platforms around the globe. Within esports, we're running the biggest one, or a few. We're running the biggest tournaments in the Nordics, and also sort of have a scalable business model, and run one of the biggest communities within esports in Nordics. We can take next slides, please. The group was founded in 2015, and as you can see, I joined the business 2 years ago in the beginning of 2020, and the board revised the strategy of the business at that time, and we also sort of started our acquisition journey, where we've so far made 3 acquisitions, and to date 3 acquisitions. This year, 2 acquisitions in Playdigious and Fragbite. We'll talk a little bit more about these companies on the next slides. And as you know, then we also went IPO in the summer. The main reason for IPO is, of course, to use our own shares as part of the consideration when we sort of acquire more companies in the future. Next slide, please. Quickly about the mobile market, or the games, global games market. It's a $175 billion market, huge market. It's decreased a little bit in 2021 compared to the previous year. 1% less is the entire market. But what's interesting to see is, and what I want to highlight on this picture quickly, is the fact that the segment that we're active in the mobile gaming, which is the dark blue and the less dark blue areas, is continue to gain market share and has about a little bit more than 50% of the entire games market. And this mobile gaming segment is also sort of generating the most profitability out of the industry. More than 70% of the total profitability in the gaming industry is generated by mobile games, sort of built for tablets and smartphones. About 1/3 of the world's population is gamers or plays some sort of game. Next slide, please. So what are our sort of operations when it comes to mobile gaming? I mentioned we have one business unit publishing in indie games. We acquired Playdigious in end of May this year. Super solid entrepreneurs. They've done the sort of the journey with one more company before they sort of founded the Playdigious. I'm happy to have them on board, but they also sort of overperformed on more or less every parameter that we set when we acquired this business and what we see so far. I mentioned they have 16 titles, so this is quite low risk operations when it comes to mobile gaming, because they license existing titles and they publishing or sort of adapt this game to PC games to mobile games. So they adjust them and release them on mobile. So that's verified and sort of proven games that we sort of launch on other platforms, which has been proven to be successful. I would say this is one of the top of mind publishing indie games publishers that IP holders would consider when they want to publish their games on a mobile platform. If we look at the activities, I mean, during the last half year or last quarter, Playdigious has one game which is called Playdigious, which is performing very well globally, but specifically in China, where they have been, on the top list. We sort of display on this slide a few, data points where they actually when it comes to downloads, more than 2 million downloads, payable downloads on this game, and also been the top mobile game in China. During the quarter, we also have one more title, Evoland 2, that was approved by the Chinese authorities to be released. It's quite an exclusive sort of group of games that are approved to be released in China, about 200 games per year. So very happy for actually having one more game released in China going forward. We also had a few updates of the existing games the previous sort of quarter. We can take next slide, please. When it comes to our mobile games, where we develop our own gaming engines and our own titles, we work when it comes to publishing of these games together with Tilting Point, which is one of the world's leading publishers. I would say top 3 or top 5. They have a fund of I think they raised $200 million in total, just for firepower when it comes to sort of marketing mobile games. We have, as I said, we have 2 scalable gaming engines in this operations or this business unit, where we continuously launch new titles. So we already launched a game called MMA Manager, where you are an owner of a gym and you recruit fighters and trainers, and then your fighters go and fight other players' fighters. We are releasing in a couple of weeks or next coming weeks the sequel of this game, which is called then MMA Manager Ultimate Fight. So before year end. We also release a new sequel of our existing game called Capital War, which was released towards the Middle East version when it comes to our strategy, war strategy game. And we're releasing a Western version of this game called Army Battle. They're coming, in near future. And of course, I said that we have scalable game engines, so we can continuously and will continuously and have in our plans to release more games on these scalable game engines. Next slide, please. If we spend some time on the esport market, this slide is just to show you quickly the importance of expanding our esport operations to outside the Nordics. So whatever parameter you look at on this slide, the Nordic market constitutes about 1 to 2% of the entire esport market. You can see that when it comes to enthusiasts and revenues, it's close to 2%, but when it comes to awareness and live streaming audience, it's about 1%. So it's very growing market, underlying growing parameters when it comes to esport, but the Nordic market where we are present is just a small piece of the entire global market. Next slide, please. If we look at the esport markets, it's way, lower than the gaming market. It's about, this year, it's a little bit more than $1 billion. Since 2019, it's grown 11%, but from now on into 2024, Newso expects the market or the total addressable market to grow about 16 to 17% per year. On the right side of the slide, you see the different segments of revenues, and you can see that sponsorship is way overrepresented of the total revenues in the industry. And I think this is the characteristic of a rather immature market. The esport market is rather immature when it comes to revenues, but you can see, so if you compare football or soccer towards esport, when it comes to media rights and ancillary sales and stuff like that, esports is rather, immature and hasn't been able to, so far, hasn't been able to successfully monetize on the giant audience and the crowd that actually follow the industry. But you can see that the fastest growing revenue streams is not sponsorship, but the other sort of revenue streams. Next slide, please. If we dive into what we are doing within esports, I told you we are one of the leading esport companies in the Nordic. We run our own leagues and own our own IPs. Frag League is one of the biggest esport tournaments in the Nordics, targeting amateurs or grassroots practitioners of the industry. So we offer everyone that wants to, esport to play on their capacity level in a professional manner with the professional broadcasting of the show with professional commentators. And of course, you have a huge if we look on the diagram to the right, you have a huge fan pool. We saw that on the previous page. And within the ecosystem, we are running the tournaments, but we also running a community, one of the biggest communities in the Nordic, with more than 200,000 followers on a monthly basis. And we our role we connect the amateur players, the sponsors, bringing in the sponsors, and also choose distribution platforms for how to broadcast and how to distribute our the leagues and content that we produce in the industry. Also worth to highlight, so what you probably sort of read that we also press released it, is that we, together with the Swedish Chess Association, will build the first esport league when it comes to chess. And it's called the Svenska Schackligan. We will also partner with chess.com. And in this sort of partnership, chess.com will rather be the arena where sort of the distribution platform in order to reach as many fans and audience as possible for this league. But we will sort of be the organizer and also bringing in, you know, inviting players, but also bringing in sponsorships. More so if I do a comparison with Champions League, for example, chess.com would be the arena like Camp Nou or Old Trafford, and we would be FIFA organizing the entire tournament, and also selling all the sponsorships. Interesting to the left-right that we also sort of within our esports, we build the organization or the business unit on 4 pillars. Frag League, or the leagues that we run, or either white label, I've already touched upon. We drive our communities, leading communities in the Nordic. We also run our creative studios, where we build marketing materials and marketing concepts together with our sponsors. The esports industry is rather immature, so we need to help them build and and also sort of teach them how to address the rather sort of demanding fans, which is really young. 16 to 35 years old is overrepresented in the sort of target in the audience compared to other sports. Next slide, please. I mentioned that one of our focus areas is, of course, acquisition. We're growing fast organically so far, and also and through acquisition, of course. But if you compare Q3 to Q2, we had a nice organic growth, but we have a focus area in recruiting or in acquiring strategic, profitable, strategic, and fast-growing companies with great entrepreneurs. And we're in great talks with, intensive talks with some of potential targets here. And why are we doing this? We will continue to grow organically, but of course we need to diversify. We want more titles and diversified risk in the business. We currently have 19 mobile titles, but also acquire potential, IPs, games that we can use in esport concepts going forward. This is a value creation, or this create shareholder value for sure. There's a piece of multiple arbitrage is a great opportunity to do that, and it will continue grow, target growth or continue drive growth through the company through these acquisitions. And as you know, we've done 3 so far. And we'll continue to work hard on this. Next slide, please. If we quickly highlight the Q3 and first 9 months, in terms of numbers, we sort of report revenues in Q3 of 44.1 million, which is a 35% organic growth from previous quarter, the second quarter this year. Total revenues pro forma, given that we estimate that we have owned the acquired companies from 1st of January is 99 million. And the adjusted EBITDA, or actually the reported EBITDA, was 2.9 million in Q3. And then we had 200K of one-off items during the quarter. So the adjusted EBITDA is 3.1. We have, as I mentioned, an underlying strong profitability and an underlying positive cash flow in the organization or in the group. And we have a lot of activities going forward with a lot of releases in plan, which I will touch upon next slide. We're well capitalized when we exited Q3. We had 69, close to 70 million cash in the bank account. And we also sort of recruited our CFO, Lars Johansson, very experienced both in M&A, but also listed CFO, as a CFO in listed companies. Next slide, please. Here we list 10 activities that will be released the coming 7 months, or during the end of this year and Q1 and Q2. It's new titles on our existing scalable game engines. It's new esport concept that will be launched. I told you we will launch Svenska Schackligan, the chess league, during December. But also when it comes to Q2, new announcements. We haven't announced the name of the titles, but promising titles that will be released by Playdigious during next year or end of first half of next year. So in total, 10 activities that we list for activities the coming 7 months. And this is not an exhaustive list. I hope that we can actually add more activities on this list. But it gives you a sort of understanding of there's a lot of activity in the group going on. Next slide, please. Quickly, financials. Next slide. I touched upon the fact that we reported in Q3 44.1 million SEK, and reported EBITDA of 2.9, and adjusted EBITDA of 3.1. When we go down to EBIT or net results, we have about 11 million of depreciation on goodwill every quarter. So that makes the net numbers 10 million or marginally more a negative. If we look, it doesn't give us a good, no meaning really to compare against previous years, since we done 2 major acquisitions during the year. So what I want to highlight is pro forma first 9 months revenues 99 million, and the underlying profitability of 3.5 when it comes to reported EBITDA, and the adjusted EBITDA 2.3. I think we can do a lot when it comes to revenue margins. As you can see, we have about 7 to 8% EBITDA margin currently. I think we'll work hard on this topic and how to sort of increase the profitability in each business unit. I think now we're about to launch a few new titles going forward. So that's one of the reasons we scaled down MMA Manager during this quarter and are just about to scale up. So in a little bit in the gap when it comes to that. Next slide, please. Quickly about the cash flow. Normally companies in our, public companies talk about net debt. In this company, we talk about net cash position. So in total, we have about short of 70 million cash in the bank account, whereof 17 is bank debt. So our net cash position in the business is 52 million. but in total, close to 70 million cash in the bank account. And as you can see on the left side, our cash flow from operation and underlying cash flow is positive. Then we made some investments in acquisitions. Of course, that creates a negative cash flow. But apart from that, I'm in strong cash flow position. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And just to sum up, so Fragbite Group, we're profitable, fast-growing, and cash flow positive company, offering digital entertainment, combining our experience within developing mobile games and esport, and we'll combine that. That creates, rather a unique position compared to competitors. I believe it's only us and MTG that actually combined esports and gaming in our offering. That's about it. We open up for questions. Thank you. Next slide.
Thank you, Stefan. I'm afraid we don't have time for any questions because the next presentation is coming up in just 2 minutes. But thank you so much for the presentation.
Okay, thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.